Tell us why we're here today, Phil.
We're here to commemorate the greatest amphibious landing of history.
Tell them about what we're interviewing today.
We're here to interview veterans of D-Day and the Normandy campaign.
Good morning. Today is 25th day of May, 1994. We're here today to talk to people that were alive 50 years ago and can reflect and give us an idea what life was like in Baldwinsville when we had the largest amphibious battle ever fought in the world on June 6, 1944 to liberate Europe. And we have two groups of people to talk to today. Those who are residents of Baldwinsville that are here, and also D-Day veterans. I think we have 4 or 5 right in the area. We have 5 in the area, and I think 4 are coming down today. And we're going to interview those about the battle part of it and so forth, a reflection on that. First off, we have the historian, past historian, maybe present historian at Van Buren. Past, okay. And she's going to give us a good insight what it was like. Her late husband, Tony Christopher, was well known in this area and wrote articles for the Messenger for what, about 15 years on her?
Well, he wrote 600 articles altogether.
600, and I imagine Mike Gridley's here today, read every one of them too. At this point, I want to turn you over to Mike Gridley, who's the editor of the Messenger, will take care of the interview. Thank you. Here you are.
All set? Okay.
Yeah.
Why don't you start out by telling me where you were 50 years ago and what your situation was?
Well, we had my husband and I had an electric repair shop out on State Fair Boulevard. He started it in 1928, so we've been involved for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
We had a very busy life, and when the war came along, there was a lot of work to be done for manufacturing, like Morris Machine. So we did a lot of work in that type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Do you mean...
They came in from Cato, Oswego, and all over in order to keep their businesses running and producing things needed at the war.
Okay. What were some of the specific things that you were producing?
Well, we would be repairing motors for their machines or anything that broke down.
Okay, so because they had a shortage of...
Right.
They couldn't get new materials and stuff, so you had to come up with...
Yes.
You had to fix the old stuff and keep it working. Okay. And your family at that time?
Well, I had 3 children at that time. And John, the second one in line, he remembers a lot about it, but he had to work today, so he couldn't come.
Okay.
But he was 6 years old, and he remembers a lot of little things that, and mentioned it. Gas rationing was very important. You had to think about where you were driving. We happened to be able to have more gas because we had to deliver things, so we didn't have problems like people that just went for joyriding.
Right. Now, how did you get a different ration than other people? Because you were...
Because of business.
Okay.
And we used it really for business.
Okay. Now, was there anyone in your family that was involved, that was fighting in the war? Or?
No, but they did call Tony. He was past the age that he was supposed to go, but they wanted him to go to England, and there was some electrical work that they wanted him on, but Morris's and places from Cato and all, they said let him stay here so that he can keep us running.
Oh, okay. And were there other relatives that were in the war? Or?
Well, it would be distant cousins.
Did you get any letters or anything back?
Well, yes, people had written to us, and it's been a long time. I've sort of forgotten the names.
Other than the rationing, how else did it affect your lives that we were involved in this?
Well, you didn't need much more than rationing to affect your life in any way, because of gas and food and butter and all those types of things. And in fact, I brought some rationing books along that my family had. And so there was only 3 of them that this is.
Now, how did these work?
Well, when you went to the store to buy something, you would have to give them a stamp, one of your ration stamps. Or, and what was very interesting, and John was telling me about it, he said, Mom, you know, I always remember the teachers at school, they used to, we had cows, so we made our own butter, so we didn't have to have it butter, and we had bees and had honey. So at Christmas time, instead of giving the teachers a gift, we sent them butter and
Something they could really
something
use.
like that. And we said, oh, why couldn't you send handkerchiefs or something? Nobody else brings butter.
But they probably could really have
Oh,
used
sure.
it. Yeah. Now, what were some of the other things that were under rations?
Oh, just about sugar. But we had bees, so we had our
Used
own
honey instead.
We kept very busy. We tried to have things.
And as far as gas went, you got...
Well, the gas was rationed to a certain extent to us, but as long as we had the business and we were delivering things, but we did not misuse it. I know it has been misused, but we didn't.
When did that start in the war?
During the whole war, it was
Through the whole
rationed,
time
yeah.
it was we were under rationing.
I remember the day that that peace was declared. There's Peter Lawrence that lived down next to us, young fellow, probably 8, 9 years old, and he came rushing up the road on his bicycle and got my son out, Jim out, and they rode around our yard holding flags and wanting whistles.
Any other memories of the actual day, D-Day?
Well, there was a lot of bells ringing and sirens going off and that type of thing. I think what probably during the war was the blackouts that were so.
What do you remember conversations that people were having then, or what was the general feeling?
Well, people were very friendly, and if you met, you always had to ask about their children and their families, and Baldwinsville was a very friendly place. You knew everybody, I think.
Were people, was there any fear about what might happen?
Yes, yes. There was, especially during the whole time, yes. People were really afraid that we would be bombed, and they built some of people did, built shelters in their cellars so to have a place to go.
Okay, any other memories that come to mind?
Well, I think that's a great deal of it. I have quite a bit on the blackout that they have. Tony wrote quite a bit on the blackout, and he told about the whistles that were blown. And in town here, National Cellulose, they had a whistle and Morse machine, and they blow it, and then people would take refuge in doorways and that type of thing.
Now, that was done as a drill to get people used to it. How often did that happen?
Well, I really don't remember. I couldn't say, but it's quite often.
And what did you do with your family when that happened?
Well, we lived outside of town, so we just go in the shop and the back. And,
But you had to find a safe
Yes,
place to go.
yes. John remembers the blackout, and he'd say, I remember sitting by the window and opening the curtains to peek out, but we didn't have any lights in the house.
And you were supposed to have all the lights out
Right.
and be hidden away somewhere.
Right.
Okay. And when did they start doing those kind of drills? From the beginning of the
From
war
the
also?
beginning.
Okay. So people were pretty used to it by the time that this came
It
around.
wasn't a very happy time.
Yeah.
We worried
imagine.
about all the boys that were over there.
Yeah. Anything else about the blackout there that might be interesting?
That would be interesting. Well, they worked a few hours at a time around the day and night too, in different places, and they were like the late Franklin Wee, who was the father of our village mayor, was the head of the local air watchers and ground wardens. And his name can still be seen on the observers' identification cards. They had to carry cards. And air raid alarms were sounded very often. And a loud, prolonged toot from the whistles of the National Cellulose Paper Mill, which is no longer here, of course, and Morris Machine Works brought all the traffic to a standstill. And people took refuge in doorways and buildings and basements. Lights were dimmed or extinguished.
People would just get right out of their cars.
Yeah, and afterwards, when the whistle blew again, it was all clear, and then everybody came out.
Now, the spotters were just civilians?
Civilians.
That were trained in...
Well, yes. I remember one Mr. King was very prominent in it. I can't remember his first name. King?
He was a spotter, air raid spotter. And they would basically be on shifts
they would
to
be on
watch.
shifts to watch.
And you said it earlier, a few hours at a time,
Right.
24 hours a day, they would be somebody.
Yeah, 24 hours a day.
Did they was there a place where they would watch from, a tower or
Yes,
something?
they had a place in maybe more than one place, but the place I remember was out, going out of town on the hill where the brewery is now, out there. There was
They had a tower?
they had a
or
tower
something?
type of thing out there that they watched for the planes.
Okay. I guess if there's anything else there that you had, we
I think they
talked about a lot of things, the blackouts and...
church bells ringing and...
Okay, well, if there's any other
I think
things in
that's
there,
about all I can do for you.
Okay. Well, we can talk to the next person that we have here.